I watched from the top of the stairs as my sister Riley posed for photos in my custom-designed silver heels, the ones I'd spent 6 months saving for, the ones that were supposed to make me feel beautiful for the first time in my life. Mom adjusted Riley's hair, Dad beamed with pride, and nobody, absolutely nobody, noticed me standing there in my bare feet, my prom dress hanging limply on my too-thin frame. "Smile bigger, sweetie," Mom cooed at Riley. "You're going to be prom queen for sure." The heels caught the light perfectly. They were works of art, really, hand-beaded with tiny crystals that formed constellations across the straps. I'd designed them myself and commissioned them from a local artisan, paying her in installments from my part-time job at the library. They were supposed to be my Cinderella moment. Riley knew that. She'd watched me sketch them obsessively in my notebook. She'd rolled her eyes when I'd shown her the final product 2 weeks ago, still in their box with tissue paper. "Too flashy," she'd said, like, "not really your style anyway." But apparently they were her style now. "Riley, I called down, my voice thin and shaky. "Those are my shoes." Mom looked up, irritated by the interruption. "Oh, Emma, don't be selfish. Riley's dress needed something special, and your father already spent so much on her gown. You understand, don't you?" I didn't understand. I never understood. But I nodded anyway because that's what I always did. "Besides," Riley said, examining her reflection in the hallway mirror, "you were just going to wear them to take photos for colleges anyway. It's not like you have an actual date." She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather, not twisting a knife into my chest. She was right about the date part. My prom date was my best friend Marcus, who was gay and going as a favor because his parents were making him attend. Riley, meanwhile, was going with Brett Carmichael, the captain of the football team and the boy I'd had a crush on since freshman year. The boy Riley had started dating 2 weeks after I'd confided in her about my feelings. That should have been my first clue that something was deeply wrong with my family. But it took me 18 years and a fatal accident to finally see it. "Emma, stop standing there like a ghost and come take pictures of your sister," Dad ordered, holding out his phone. "Make yourself useful." I descended the stairs slowly, feeling the cold hardwood beneath my feet. Riley thrust her clutch at me, my clutch actually, another borrowed item, and posed with Mom and Dad. I took photo after photo, watching my family laugh and celebrate together while I stood behind the camera, invisible as always. Riley's date arrived in a white Mercedes that his parents had bought him for his birthday. Brett barely glanced at me as he pinned a corsage on Riley's wrist. They looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. The perfect couple, the perfect prom night ahead of them. After they left in a swirl of expensive perfume and hairspray, I went back to my room and stared at my reflection. My dress was pretty. I'd made it myself, pale blue with delicate embroidery. But without the heels, without the accessories Riley had commandeered, I looked exactly like what I was, a girl playing dress-up in her own life. Marcus texted, "Still picking you up at 7?" I almost canceled. I almost told him I was sick, that I couldn't go, that there was no point. But something in me, some stubborn, foolish spark, refused to let Riley take this from me too. "Yeah, see you then." I dug out my old white sneakers from the back of my closet, the ones I wore for gym class. They looked ridiculous with the dress, but at least I'd have shoes. At least I'd be able to dance if I wanted to. Marcus picked me up in his mom's sedan, took one look at my feet, and didn't say a word. He just handed me a corsage, pink roses, my favorite, and told me I looked beautiful. I almost cried right there in my driveway. Prom was held in the hotel ballroom downtown, all glittering lights and overpriced decorations. Riley was already there, holding court with her popular friends, my heels glinting under the disco ball. She saw me come in, saw my sneakers, and laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. "Oh my God, Emma," she called out loud enough for half the room to hear. "Did you forget shoes? Or is this some kind of hipster statement?" Her friends giggled. Brett looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I felt my face burn. Marcus squeezed my hand. "Ignore her. She's not worth it." But I couldn't ignore her. I never could. Riley had spent our entire lives making sure I knew my place. Beneath her, behind her, forgotten and forgettable. She was the pretty one, the talented one, the one our parents actually wanted. I was the accident baby, the afterthought, the girl who existed only to make Riley look better by comparison. I spent prom on the sidelines watching Riley dance with Brett, watching her charm everyone she met. Those heels, my heels, carried her across the floor with grace and confidence. They should have been carrying me. At midnight, they announced prom queen. Riley's name echoed through the ballroom. She accepted her crown and her roses, gave a speech about following your dreams, and everyone applauded. She was radiant, perfect, everything I would never be. The night blurred after that. Marcus drove me home around 1 in the morning. I thanked him, went inside, and found Mom and Dad still up, waiting to hear about Riley's inevitable victory. "Did Riley win?" Mom asked before I'd even closed the door. "Yes," I said flatly. "Oh, wonderful. And you got good photos, I hope?" I'd taken maybe 3 photos all night, all of them of Marcus making stupid faces to cheer me up. "Sure, Mom." Dad didn't even look up from his laptop. "Your sister texted. She's staying at Brett's house tonight. His parents are hosting an after party." Of course she was. Of course she got the perfect prom, the perfect night, the perfect life. I went upstairs, took off the dress I'd worked so hard on, and hung it in the back of my closet where it would probably never be worn again. The sneakers went back in their corner, scuffed and pathetic. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. Instead, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the times Riley had taken things from me. My clothes, my ideas, my birthday once when she convinced my parents to throw a joint party and then turned it into her exclusive celebration. My crush on Brett, my heels, my prom, my entire life had been lived in Riley's shadow, and I was tired. So tired. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, my alarm was going off. Sunday morning, I had to work at the library at 9, except when I opened my eyes, something was wrong. The ceiling was wrong. The light was wrong. My room looked different, younger somehow. Posters I'd taken down years ago were back on my walls. My desk was cluttered with textbooks from classes I'd already taken. I sat up fast, my heart hammering. On my nightstand, my phone buzzed. Not my phone. An older model, one I'd had when I was 15. The lock screen showed a date that made no sense. April 15th, 3 years ago. This was impossible. I stumbled out of bed and caught sight of myself in the mirror. My face was rounder, younger, free of the stress lines I'd developed during senior year. My hair was longer. My body was the awkward, gangly frame of a 15-year-old, not the slightly more developed 18-year-old I'd gone to bed as. "What the hell?" I whispered. The door burst open. Riley swept in without knocking. She never knocked, looking exactly as she had 3 years ago. 15 years old, fresh-faced, her hair in the same style she'd worn in sophomore year. "Emma, have you seen my blue sweater? The cashmere one Grandma sent me?" I stared at her, unable to form words. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. Earth to Emma. Riley snapped her fingers in my face. "My sweater? I don't know," I managed. She rolled her eyes and started rifling through my closet without permission, exactly as she always had. "Mom said you borrowed it last week. I need it back. I'm meeting Chad at the mall today." Chad? Riley's sophomore year boyfriend, the one before Tyler, who'd been before Brett. I'd forgotten about Chad entirely. My mind reeled. Either I was having the most vivid dream of my life or something impossible had happened. Based on the solid feeling of the carpet under my feet, the realness of Riley's annoying presence, the way my heart was pounding in my chest, this wasn't a dream. Somehow, impossibly, I'd gone back in time. 3 years back, to be exact. Back to April of my sophomore year when I was 15 and Riley was 15 and none of the worst parts had happened yet. "Found it." Riley yanked the blue sweater, her sweater, which I'd borrowed and forgotten to return, from my closet. "God, Emma, would it kill you to be more organized?" She flounced out, leaving my door wide open behind her. I sank onto my bed, my hands shaking. If this was real, If I'd really somehow traveled back in time, then I had a chance to change everything, a chance to stop letting Riley and my parents walk all over me, a chance to finally stand up for myself. But first, I needed to understand what had happened. The memories were foggy, but they were there. I remembered prom night, remembered coming home, remembered lying in bed, and then nothing. No accident, no illness, no dramatic death scene. Just a gap, and then waking up here 3 years younger. Had I died? Is that what this was? Some kind of second chance from the universe? It didn't matter. What mattered was that I was here now with 3 years of future knowledge and a burning desire to make sure this time went differently. Over the next few days, I tested my memories obsessively. I knew what was in Riley's diary hidden under her mattress. I knew that Dad would get a promotion in 2 weeks. I knew that Mom's garden would be destroyed by rabbits next month. I knew which teacher would get fired for embezzlement, which students would drop out, which couples would break up. Everything I remembered came true. This was real. This was happening. I'd been given the ultimate unfair advantage, foreknowledge, and I was going to use it. The first thing I did was start documenting everything. I bought a small notebook and began recording every instance of Riley's cruelty, every time Mom favored her, every time Dad dismissed me. I wrote down dates, times, exact quotes when I could remember them. In my old life, I'd let it all slide. That's just how families are, I'd told myself. Riley doesn't mean it. Mom's just stressed. Dad's just busy. But now, seeing it all written down in black and white, I couldn't deny it anymore. My family was abusive, emotionally, psychologically abusive, and I'd spent my entire life making excuses for them. Not anymore. The second thing I did was start preparing for the future. I remembered every major event, every test, every opportunity I'd missed. I also remembered the specific moments when Riley had sabotaged me, and I could prevent them all. 3 weeks into my new life, the first big test came. Riley waltzed into my room, again without knocking, with a suspicious smile on her face. "Hey, Emma, you're good at English, right?" I knew what was coming. In my original timeline, Riley had convinced me to help her write her final paper for English class, then had turned in my rough draft as her own work while claiming my final version was plagiarized from her. It had nearly gotten me expelled. "I'm okay at it," I said carefully. "Ça, I'm totally stuck on this paper about Shakespeare. Could you maybe help me brainstorm? Just a little?" In my old life, I'd said yes immediately, eager for any scrap of sisterly bonding. Now I smiled sweetly and said, "Sorry, Riley. I'm slammed with my own work. Maybe ask Mom to hire you a tutor?" Her smile faltered. "Come on, don't be like that. We're sisters. We help each other." "Do we?" I met her eyes directly, something I never used to do. "When's the last time you helped me with something?" She blinked, taken aback. Well, I'm busy too, you know. I have cheer practice and student council, and then I guess we're both too busy." I turned back to my homework dismissively. Riley stood there for a moment, clearly confused by my refusal. In the end, she huffed and left, slamming the door behind her. 2 weeks later, Riley got a C on her Shakespeare paper. She tried to blame me, telling Mom and Dad that I'd refused to help her on purpose because I was jealous of her. But I'd anticipated that too. I offered to help her study if she wanted to form a study group. I lied smoothly at dinner. But she said she didn't need my help because she had it handled. Right, Riley? I'd said this in front of Dad the day after Riley had asked, loud enough for him to hear, but casual enough that he'd barely registered it at the time. Now he frowned, trying to remember. "That does sound familiar," he admitted. Riley's face turned red. I didn't. Maybe you should manage your time better," Mom said, though her tone was gentle with Riley in a way it never was with me. "We can get you that tutor," Emma suggested. It was a small victory, but it was mine. Riley shot me a venomous look across the table. The war had officially begun. Over the next year, I systematically prevented every sabotage attempt Riley made. When she tried to borrow my science project and claim it as her own, I'd already turned mine in early and had the timestamp to prove it. When she spread rumors that I was sleeping with my math teacher, I had an alibi. I'd been in the library and I'd made sure multiple people saw me there. When she stole money from my room and tried to frame me for stealing from Mom's purse, I'd already moved my savings to a bank account she didn't know about. Each time, Riley became more frustrated. Our parents started noticing that the misunderstandings between us always seemed to originate with her, not me. I played the perfect daughter, helpful, studious, never complaining, always with plausible deniability when Riley's schemes fell apart. But I knew the real battle was still coming. The heels, the prom. That was when Riley would try her ultimate theft, the one that had broken something fundamental inside me in my original life. This time, I'd be ready. Junior year, I started my campaign in earnest. I joined clubs, made real friends, built a life outside my family. I studied harder, got better grades, and started applying for scholarships. I saved every penny from my library job, but I didn't spend it on custom heels. Instead, I invested in myself in other ways. I took online courses in business and web design. I started a small side business making custom jewelry, which turned out to be surprisingly profitable. I built connections with teachers and counselors who actually saw my potential. Most importantly, I started going to therapy. I told the school counselor that I was struggling with family dynamics, and she referred me to a local therapist who worked on a sliding scale. Week by week, session by session, I unlearned years of conditioning that had taught me I was worthless. Riley, meanwhile, continued on her same path. She dated Chad, then Tyler, then Brett. She joined the same clubs, made the same friends, committed the same casual cruelties. But this time, her actions had consequences. This time, people noticed. When she tried to take credit for the charity drive I'd organized, 3 different teachers called her out on it. When she mocked another girl's weight in the hallway, the vice principal overheard and gave her detention. When she plagiarized a history paper, the teacher failed her without hesitation. By senior year, Riley's golden girl image had serious tarnish on it. She was still popular, pretty, charming girls usually are, but she wasn't untouchable anymore. And she blamed me for all of it. "You've changed," she hissed at me one morning before school. "You used to be nice, now you're just a bitch." "I haven't changed," I said calmly. "I've just stopped letting you walk all over me." There's a difference. She looked like she wanted to hit me. Instead, she grabbed her bag and stormed out. Mom cornered me later that day. "What's going on between you and Riley?" "She says you're making her life difficult." "I'm not making her life difficult, Mom. I'm just living my own life." "If that's difficult for Riley, maybe she should examine why." Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. "You know your sister has always been sensitive. You could try being more supportive." "Like she's supportive of me?" The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. Mom looked away. "This family works when everyone gets along, Emma. This family works when Riley gets whatever she wants, and I stay quiet," I corrected. "I'm not doing that anymore." I walked away before she could respond, my heart pounding, but my head high. The heels situation played out almost exactly as I remembered, but this time I'd planned for it. 6 months before prom, I commissioned the same artisan to make the same beautiful silver heels, paying in the same installments. I sketched them obsessively in my notebook where Riley could see them. I talked about them with barely contained excitement. But I also did something else. I commissioned a second pair. These were even more beautiful, gold instead of silver, with sapphires instead of crystals, custom fitted perfectly to my feet. These I kept secret, stored in a locked box at Marcus's house. Riley took the bait exactly as I knew she would. 2 weeks before prom, I came home to find the silver heels missing from my closet. I made sure Mom and Dad heard me searching, heard me getting upset. I called Riley, who claimed to know nothing about them. The day before prom, I found them in Riley's room, exactly where I knew they'd be. I brought them downstairs, holding them carefully. "Riley," I said, my voice shaking perfectly, These are mine. I need them for tomorrow." Riley looked at Mom and Dad, then at me. "They were just sitting in your closet. I thought I could borrow them. You never wear nice things anyway." That's because you take them before I can, I said quietly. Emma, don't be dramatic, Mom said automatically. Samaya see. Riley, give your sister her shoes back. But Mom, they match my dress perfectly. And Emma's just going with Marcus. It's not even a real date. They're Emma's shoes, Dad said, surprising everyone. She paid for them. Give them back. Riley's face crumpled in that practiced way that usually got her whatever she wanted. You're choosing Emma over me? Really? We're not choosing anyone, Mom said quickly. But Emma did buy those shoes herself. Maybe we can find you something else. Forget it, Riley snapped. She threw the heels at me, actually threw them, hard enough that I had to catch them awkwardly to keep them from hitting the floor. Take your stupid shoes. I hope you trip and fall in them. She ran upstairs, slamming her bedroom door. Mom sighed and followed her. Dad looked at me, really looked at me, for maybe the first time in years. You okay, Emma? I nodded, clutching the silver heels. Yeah, Dad, I'm okay. But I wasn't planning to wear those heels. They were beautiful, yes, but they represented something toxic. My family's dysfunction, Riley's theft, years of being overlooked. The next day, Riley left for prom in a different pair of heels, expensive ones that Mom had rushed out to buy her at the last minute. She looked beautiful, of course. She always did. I watched her pose for photos, watched Mom and Dad fawn over her, and I felt nothing. No jealousy, no anger, no hurt. She was just a girl in a pretty dress, and I had my own life to live. Marcus picked me up at 7. When I came downstairs, my parents did a double take. I was wearing my pale blue dress, improved and perfected from my original version, with better tailoring and more intricate embroidery. My hair was professionally done, swept up in an elegant style. My makeup was flawless, and on my feet were my white sneakers, pristine and bright, with tiny sapphires glued around the edges in a pattern that matched the hidden gold heels still at Marcus's house. Emma, Mom said slowly, why are you wearing sneakers? Because I want to, I said simply. They're comfortable. I'll actually be able to dance. Riley, still there getting final touch-ups on her makeup, laughed. You're wearing gym shoes to prom? Oh my God, Emma, that's so embarrassing. Is it? I smiled at her, perfectly calm. I think they're cute. And anyway, this night is about having fun, not impressing people who don't matter. But the photos, Mom started. Will be perfect, I finished. Don't worry, Mom, I know what I'm doing. Marcus came to the door, took one look at my sneakers and grinned. Hell yes, you look amazing. We left my family standing there, confused and slightly scandalized. I heard Riley say something catty as we walked out, but I didn't catch the words and didn't care enough to ask. In the car, Marcus looked over at me. You've really changed this year, Em, in a good way. Thanks, I said. I decided I was tired of playing by everyone else's rules. The sneakers are a statement. The sneakers are comfortable, I corrected. The T. But if they make a statement too, that's fine. Prom was different this time. I danced without worrying about blisters. I laughed with real friends I'd made over the past 3 years. I took photos that captured actual joy instead of fake smiles. Riley was there, of course, beautiful and popular in her expensive heels and last-minute designer shoes. She held court with her friends, danced with Brett, and generally acted like the queen bee she'd always been. But something was different. People weren't quite as awed by her anymore. When she made a snide comment about another girl's dress, several people looked uncomfortable instead of laughing along. When she demanded the DJ play her song, he politely told her he'd get to it when he could, then never did. The prom queen announcement came at midnight. Riley's name was called. I knew it would be. She'd campaigned hard for it. But the applause was polite rather than enthusiastic. She gave her speech about following dreams, just like before, but this time I saw through it. Empty words from an empty girl who'd never had to work for anything in her life. When she came off the stage, she found me by the punch bowl and couldn't resist gloating. Prom queen, she said, flashing her crown. Not that you were even in the running. Congratulations, I said sincerely. You must be very happy. She blinked, thrown off by my genuine tone. I, yeah, I am. Good. Everyone should be happy at prom. I smiled at her. Your shoes look beautiful, by the way. Much better than those silver ones would have been. Riley stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you feeling okay? Never better. I walked away before she could say anything else, leaving her standing there in confusion. The real victory came 2 weeks later. Riley and I were both graduating. We were both going to college. Her to a state school where our parents were paying full tuition, me to an Ivy League university on a full scholarship I'd earned through my grades, my extracurriculars, and my business ventures. The night before graduation, Mom and Dad called a family meeting. These were always about Riley, her needs, her plans, her future. I attended with minimal expectations. Girls, Dad started looking uncomfortable. We need to talk about something. Your father and I have been thinking, Mom continued. Riley, sweetie, we're concerned about your college funding. Riley's face fell. What? But you said, we know what we said. But things have changed. Your father's promotion didn't come with the salary increase we expected, and we've had some unexpected expenses. We can't afford to pay for all 4 years, Dad cut in. We can cover the first year, maybe 2 if we're careful, but after that, you'll need to take out loans or get a job or… This is Emma's fault, Riley exploded. You've been spending money on her therapy and her stupid business supplies, and… Emma's been paying for all of that herself, Dad interrupted quietly. Actually, Emma's been completely financially independent for the past 2 years. She hasn't asked us for anything. Silence fell over the table. Riley looked at me, shocked. That's right, I said softly. I've been supporting myself. I got a scholarship that covers tuition, room, board, and expenses. I saved everything I earned. I made plans and stuck to them. You could help your sister, Mom said, her voice pleading. You have extra money now. You could… No, I said firmly. Riley's your daughter. She's your responsibility, not mine. I'm not paying for her college any more than she would pay for mine. But we're family, Mom protested. Are we? I stood up, my heart hammering but my voice steady. Because for 18 years, you've treated Riley like your precious princess and me like an inconvenience. You've let her steal from me, bully me, sabotage me. You've dismissed my feelings, ignored my achievements, and made it clear that I only matter when I'm useful. Emma, that's not fair. Dad started. It's completely fair. I have years of receipts, Dad. Actual receipts. I pulled out my notebook, the one I'd been keeping since my rebirth. Every incident, every time you chose Riley over me, every time you told me to be nice to her while she was actively cruel. It's all here. Mom's face paled. You've been keeping a record? I've been documenting the truth. And you know what? I'm done. I'm 18 now, legally an adult. I'm going to college, I'm going to build my own life, and I'm going to do it without this toxic family dragging me down. Riley's eyes filled with tears. Real ones for once, not the fake ones she used for manipulation. You're abandoning us? I'm saving myself, I corrected gently. There's a difference. You 3 can figure out your own problems. I have a future to build. I walked out of that room, up to my bedroom, and started packing. The next day, I graduated valedictorian, a fact my parents learned when my name was called because I'd stopped sharing my life with them months ago. Riley graduated near the middle of our class, respectable but unremarkable. After the ceremony, my parents tried to talk to me. Riley cried, but I'd already made my decision. I moved out that week, crashing with Marcus and his family until college started. I blocked my parents' and Riley's numbers. I made it clear that I was done being their emotional punching bag. The next 3 years were the best of my life. College was everything I dreamed of. I thrived academically, made genuine friends, and continued growing my jewelry business into something substantial. By my junior year, I was making 6 figures from online sales alone. I dated casually, nothing serious. I was too focused on building my empire to settle down yet. But I was happy, genuinely happy, in a way I'd never been when I was trying to win my family's approval. Meanwhile, through the grapevine, Marcus still talked to mutual friends from high school. I heard about Riley's trajectory. She'd struggled through her first year of college without me to copy from or blame her failures on. Her mediocre work ethic caught up with her. She'd changed majors 3 times, had a series of dramatic breakups, and eventually dropped out halfway through her sophomore year. She moved back home with mom and dad, got a retail job, and basically stagnated. The last I heard, she was still living in her childhood bedroom at 21, still dating guys who treated her poorly, still expecting life to hand her everything on a silver platter. My parents had reached out a few times, awkward emails, forwarded by Marcus, asking if I'd reconsider cutting them off, asking if I'd help Riley financially, asking if I'd just come home for Christmas, please. The family isn't the same without me. I never responded. Then 3 years to the day after I'd walked out of that family meeting, I got an unexpected visitor. I was in my apartment, a nice 1-bedroom in the city, paid for entirely by my business income, when someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole and saw Riley standing there, looking smaller and more uncertain than I'd ever seen her. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity won out. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Riley. Emma. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw her register how much I'd changed. I was confident now, successful, dressed in clothes I'd designed myself. My apartment was visible behind me, tasteful, expensive, clearly the home of someone who'd made it. Can we talk? We're talking now. I mean, really talk, please. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat on my couch gingerly like she was afraid she'd break something. Your place is beautiful. Thank you. I remained standing, arms crossed. I'm not here to ask for money, she said quickly. I know you probably think that's why I came, but it's not. Then why are you here? Riley took a deep breath. I'm here to apologize. For everything, for the heels, for the paper, for all of it. You were right about everything, about me, about mom and dad, about how we treated you. I waited, saying nothing. It took me a long time to see it, she continued, but after you left, things fell apart. Without you there to be their backup plan, mom and dad actually had to deal with me. And they saw what you'd been trying to tell them for years, that I'm spoiled and entitled and kind of terrible. Kind of? I raised an eyebrow. She laughed, but it was bitter. Okay, really terrible. I was awful to you, Emma, for our whole lives. And I'm sorry. Why now? I asked. Why come here after 3 years? Because I've been in therapy, Riley said. Real therapy, not just complaining about my problems. And my therapist helped me understand that I built my whole identity around being better than you, prettier, more popular, more loved. But it was all fake. And when you left and took your light with you, I had nothing left. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. You were the strong one. You always were. You just didn't know it yet. And I spent 18 years trying to keep you from realizing it because I was scared that if you knew your worth, you'd see that I had none. You have worth, Riley, I said quietly. But you have to find it in yourself, not in being better than someone else. I know that now. She wiped her eyes. I'm working on it. I got a better job. I'm taking online classes. I'm actually trying for once. And part of that trying means making amends to the people I hurt. So this is a 12-step thing. Partly. She smiled weakly. But mostly, I just miss my sister. I miss the idea of having a sister anyway. We never really had that, did we? No, I agreed. We didn't. Could we? Riley asked. Start over, I mean? I know I don't deserve it, and I know I can't undo any of the damage I did. But maybe we could try to build something new? I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw someone different from the cruel, entitled girl I'd known. She looked tired, humbled, like life had finally taught her lessons she'd been avoiding. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, to forgive her and welcome her back into my life. But I'd learned the hard way that people don't change overnight, and forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I need time to think about it, I said finally. You hurt me, Riley, deeply and repeatedly, and I've built a life without you in it, a good life. I'm not sure I want to risk that. She nodded, standing up. I understand. Take all the time you need. If you decide you want to try, you have my number. If you decide you don't, I'll respect that too. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, Emma, I'm proud of you. You built everything I pretended to be. You actually did it. After she left, I sat on my couch for a long time thinking. Did I believe Riley had changed? Maybe. People could change, especially when they hit rock bottom and had to rebuild. Did I want her in my life? I wasn't sure. The wounds were deep, and some of them might never fully heal, but I'd learned something important in my rebirth. I got to choose. I got to decide who deserved space in my life and who didn't. I wasn't trapped by family obligation or guilt or fear anymore. I was free. I never did call Riley back, not that month, not that year, but I didn't block her number either. I left the door open, just a crack, because maybe someday I'd be ready. Or maybe I wouldn't. And that was okay too. 5 years after my rebirth, I was 23 years old and worth 7 figures. My jewelry business had expanded into a full fashion line, with boutiques in 3 major cities and an online presence that reached customers worldwide. I'd been featured in Vogue, Elle, and Forbes' 30 Under 30 list. I'd bought a penthouse downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that still took my breath away every morning. I'd also started a foundation that provided scholarships and mentorship to young women from abusive households. Girls like me, who needed someone to tell them they were worth more than their families believed. Marcus was still my best friend, now working as a social media manager for a tech startup and living with his boyfriend in Brooklyn. We had brunch every Sunday without fail. And I was happy, genuinely, completely happy in a way that felt almost surreal compared to my first life. I thought about my original timeline sometimes, the one where I'd gone to prom in sneakers out of desperation rather than choice, where I'd spent my life diminished and defeated. That Emma had been so beaten down she couldn't even imagine fighting back. But I wasn't that Emma anymore. The Genjing turning point came on a random Tuesday in October. I was at my flagship boutique, meeting with my design team about the spring collection when my assistant interrupted with an apologetic expression. Emma, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. I'm in a meeting. It's your mother. The room went quiet. My team knew bits and pieces of my family history, enough to know this wasn't a happy reunion situation. Give me 5 minutes, I told them, then followed my assistant to the front of the store. Mom stood by the window display, looking older than I remembered. She'd aged hard in 5 years, new lines around her eyes, gray threading through her hair. She wore a department store dress that had seen better days and clutched her purse like a lifeline. Emma. Her voice cracked on my name. Mom. I kept my tone neutral, professional. What are you doing here? I needed to see you, to talk to you. She glanced around the boutique, taking in the elegant displays, the expensive merchandise, the obvious success. This is incredible, Emma. You built all this? I did. I didn't elaborate. She didn't deserve my story. Your father and I, we've been following your career. The Forbes article, the magazine features. You're famous now. I'm successful, I corrected. There's a difference. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Emma, for everything. For all the years we didn't see you, didn't value you. You were always special, always brilliant, and we were too blind to notice. You noticed, I said quietly. You just didn't care. There's a difference there, too. You're right. She wiped her eyes. You're absolutely right. I was a terrible mother to you. I let Riley treat you horribly. I dismissed your feelings. I prioritized everything wrong, and I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have. I waited for her to get to the real reason she was here. In my experience, people didn't apologize without wanting something. Your father lost his job 6 months ago, Mom continued. The promotion we'd counted on, the one that never came through, it made him bitter, made him make mistakes. The company let him go. We've been burning through savings, and now, she took a shaky breath. We're going to lose the house, Emma. We can't make the mortgage payments. There it was. And you're here because you want me to bail you out, I said flatly. I'm here because you're the only one who can, Mom said. Riley can barely support herself. We have no other family, no savings left. I know we don't deserve your help. I know we have no right to ask, but Emma, we're desperate. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger, no guilt, no filial obligation, just a vast emptiness where those emotions should have been. You're right, I said. You don't deserve my help, and you have no right to ask. Emma, please. Do you know what it was like? I interrupted, my voice low and controlled. Growing up in that house, being invisible while Riley got everything? I used to think there was something wrong with me, something broken that made me unlovable. It took me years of therapy to understand that the problem wasn't me. It was you. Mom flinched. You chose every single day to favor Riley over me. You chose to ignore her cruelty and my pain. You chose to make me feel worthless. Those were choices, Mom, active choices, and now you want me to reward those choices by saving you from their consequences? We're your parents, she whispered. You were my parents, I corrected. But you didn't parent me. You housed me, fed me, and ignored me. That's not parenting. That's just warehousing. So, you're just going to let us lose everything? I'm going to let you experience the natural consequences of your actions, I said. The same way you let me experience the consequences of Riley's actions for 18 years. You taught me that lesson well, Mom. Family doesn't mean unconditional support. It means supporting the people you actually care about. Mom's face crumpled. I did care about you. I do care about you. No, you don't. You care about what I can do for you now. There's a difference. I picked up my phone and typed quickly. I'm sending you the contact information for 3 organizations that help families in financial crisis. They can connect you with resources, help you navigate bankruptcy if it comes to that, maybe even help you find affordable housing. Her phone buzzed with the message. That's all I'm willing to give you, I said. Professional resources, not money, not support, not reconciliation, just information that anyone could Google. Emma, please. You need to leave now, Mom. I have a meeting to get back to. At least think about it, she begged. Please, just think about helping us. I don't need to think about it. My answer is no. It will always be no. Not because I can't afford it. I could buy your house 3 times over without denting my savings. But because you don't deserve it. You had 18 years to be my mother, and you chose not to be. Now I'm choosing not to be your daughter. I walked away back to my design team, leaving Mom standing in my boutique among the beautiful things I'd created without her help or support. My assistant found me 10 minutes later. She's gone. Good. I refocused on the fabric swatches in front of me. Now, where were we with the spring line? That night, alone in my penthouse, I let myself feel the enormity of what I'd done. I'd cut off my mother when she was drowning. I'd refused to save my family from financial ruin. By any traditional moral standard, I was the villain of this story. But I didn't feel like a villain. I felt free. My phone rang, Riley's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Emma? Riley's voice was thick with tears. Mom told me what happened. How could you do this to them? To us? I did nothing to you, I said calmly. I simply declined to fix problems you all created. They're going to be homeless, Emma, our parents. And you have more money than you could ever spend. And I earned every penny of it without their help, I interrupted. Where were they when I was working 3 part-time jobs to save for college? Where were they when I was building my business from nothing? Where were they for 18 years while you made my life hell? That's not fair. It's completely fair. You want to save mom and dad, you do it. Get a better job, take out loans, do whatever it takes. That's what I had to do. That's what you should have been doing all along instead of expecting me to clean up your messes. I can't believe you're this cold, Riley said. What happened to you? I grew a spine, I replied. I learned to value myself. I stopped letting toxic people drain me dry. You should try it sometime. I hung up before she could respond. Over the next few weeks, I got calls, emails, texts from distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone had an opinion about my cruel refusal to help my family. Everyone thought I should be more forgiving, more understanding, more generous. I blocked them all. My real friends, the ones who knew my history, who'd seen me build myself from nothing, supported my decision without question. Marcus took me out for drinks and toasted to standing your ground and letting toxic people drown in their own mess. You know they're going to paint you as the villain, he said. The ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family in their time of need. Let them, I said. I know the truth. That's enough. 3 months later, I saw a Facebook post from a distant cousin. My parents had filed for bankruptcy and moved into a small apartment across town. Riley had moved with them, unable to afford her own place. They were humbled but grateful and learning to live more simply. The comments were full of sympathy for them and judgment for me. I was called heartless, selfish, cruel. One person even suggested I should be ashamed to call myself their daughter. I felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing. I felt validated. They'd lived beyond their means for years, spending money on Riley they didn't have while expecting me to be their retirement plan. Now they were experiencing reality. That was the moment I realized something important. I didn't just forgive myself for not helping them. I was proud of myself for having the strength to walk away. My business continued to grow. By the time I was 25, I had boutiques in 8 cities and international distribution deals in progress. I'd been invited to show at Fashion Week. I'd collaborated with major brands. I'd built an empire from nothing but talent, determination, and the unfair advantage of knowing exactly what not to do. I dated occasionally, but I was picky about who I let into my life. I'd learned the hard way that not everyone deserved access to me. The men who couldn't handle my success, who felt threatened by my independence, who expected me to be softer or more accommodating, they got one date, maximum. Eventually, I met Daniel. He was a patent attorney, brilliant and confident, with no interest in trying to dim my light. He thought my success was sexy. He encouraged my ambitions. He understood boundaries and respected my past without trying to fix it. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged. The proposal was simple but perfect. Dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first date, a ring he'd designed with input from my jewelry designer, a question asked with genuine hope rather than expectation. I said yes without hesitation. Planning the wedding brought up the inevitable question, would I invite my family? Daniel left the decision entirely to me. It's your wedding, your life, your choice. Whatever you decide, I support you. I thought about it for weeks. Part of me wanted to be the bigger person, to extend an olive branch, to prove I'd moved past the hurt. But a larger part of me remembered 18 years of pain and knew that some bridges are better left burned. In the end, I sent no invitations to my parents or Riley. I didn't announce the engagement publicly. I just planned a beautiful ceremony with the people who actually loved me. Marcus as my man of honor, college friends as bridesmaids, chosen family filling every seat. The wedding was perfect. Intimate, elegant, filled with genuine joy. Daniel cried when he saw me in my dress, a creation I'd designed myself, with subtle nods to all the women who'd supported me along the way. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, promising to be partners in every sense of the word. At the reception, Marcus gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. I've known Emma since we were 15, he said. And I've watched her transform from a girl who didn't think she deserved good things to a woman who demands them. She built this life from nothing, and she did it with grace, determination, and absolutely killer fashion sense. Everyone laughed. But more than that, Marcus continued, his voice getting serious, she taught me what real strength looks like. It's not about being loud or aggressive. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. Emma, you're the bravest person I know. And Daniel, you're the luckiest guy in the world. We raised our glasses and drank to new beginnings. That night, after the reception ended and the guests had gone home, Daniel and I sat on the balcony of our hotel suite, looking out at the city lights. Any regrets? He asked, his arm around my shoulders. I thought about my original life, the one where I'd stayed small and scared. I thought about my rebirth, the gift of a second chance. I thought about every choice I'd made since then, the bridges I'd burned, the relationships I'd ended, the family I'd walked away from. Not one, I said honestly. Not even about your family? They're missing this. Missing you. They had 18 years to know me, I said. They chose not to. That's on them, not me. Daniel kissed my temple. You're right. And for what it's worth, their loss is the world's gain. You've helped hundreds of girls through your foundation. You've created jobs and opportunities. You've built something beautiful. That's a better legacy than any family obligation. He was right. The foundation had grown beyond my wildest dreams. We'd helped over 500 young women escape abusive situations, funded their education, mentored them through career transitions. Girls who'd been where I was in my first life, who needed someone to tell them they were worth saving. That was my real family. Not the people who shared my blood, but the people who shared my values. 6 months after the wedding, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual handwritten letter forwarded to my office by my assistant. It was from Riley. Dear Emma, I know you probably won't read this, but I need to write it anyway. I heard about your wedding through a mutual friend. I saw photos on social media. You looked beautiful, happy, everything you deserve to be. I'm not writing to ask for anything or to apologize again. I did that already, and you made it clear how you felt. I respect that. I'm writing because I want you to know that you were right about everything. About mom and dad, about me, about how toxic our family was. It took me losing everything to see it, but I see it now. I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I'm working 2 jobs and taking community college classes. I'm trying to build a life that isn't based on being better than someone else or getting by on looks and charm. It's hard, really hard, but it's honest work, and I'm proud of it in a way I never was before. Mom and dad by me are bitter. They blame you for not helping them, but I don't. I understand why you walked away. I'd probably have done the same if I'd been in your position. I don't expect you to forgive me or to want a relationship, but I wanted you to know that you breaking away from us was the best thing that could have happened. Not just for you, but for me too. Watching you thrive while I struggled taught me more than anything else ever could. You were always the strong one, Emma. Always. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I hope you're happy. I hope your new husband treats you like the queen you are, and I hope that someday, maybe years from now, we might be able to talk again, not as the sisters we were, but as the women we've become. But if that never happens, I understand, and I wish you nothing but the best. With love and regret, Riley. I read the letter 3 times, sitting at my desk with tears streaming down my face. Daniel found me there an hour later. Hey, what's wrong? I handed him the letter. He read it silently, then pulled me into his arms. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking. I paused, trying to put the complicated emotions into words. I'm thinking that she sounds sincere. And I'm thinking that I'm glad she's working on herself. But I'm also thinking that I'm not ready to let her back in. Maybe I never will be. That's fair, Daniel said. Growth doesn't erase history. Exactly. I wiped my eyes. She's becoming a better person, and I'm genuinely happy for her, but that doesn't mean she gets access to me again. Some relationships can't be salvaged even when both people have changed. So, what are you going to do? I thought about it for a long moment. Then I pulled out a piece of my company letterhead and wrote a brief response. Riley, I received your letter. I'm glad you're doing the work to become a better person. That takes real courage, and I respect it. I'm happy in my life. Truly, completely happy. I've built everything I ever wanted, and I did it without the family that tried to hold me back. I appreciate your honesty and your apology. I believe that you mean it, but I'm not interested in rekindling our relationship. Too much damage was done, and I've moved on. I wish you well in your journey. I hope you find peace and purpose, but I hope you find it without me. Take care of yourself, Emma. I sealed the letter and mailed it that afternoon. It felt like closing a chapter, not with anger or bitterness, but with quiet finality. Some people might say I should have been more forgiving, more open to reconciliation. But those people didn't live my first life. They didn't know what it felt like to be slowly destroyed by people who were supposed to love you. I'd learned the hard way that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means releasing the anger while still maintaining the boundary. Sometimes it means wishing someone well from a great distance. 5 years later, I was 30 years old and living a life that would have been unimaginable to my 18-year-old self. My fashion empire had gone international. I had boutiques in 12 countries, a team of over 200 employees, and collaborations with some of the biggest names in the industry. I'd been named one of the most influential designers under 40 by multiple publications. My foundation had helped over 2,000 young women escape abuse and build successful lives. We'd expanded to include counseling services, career training, and even emergency housing. Girls from backgrounds like mine now had options I'd never had in my original life. Daniel and I had a penthouse in Manhattan, a beach house in Malibu, and a small cottage in the countryside where we went to escape the chaos. We were talking about starting a family, about building a new generation that would never know the dysfunction I'd escaped. I still thought about my rebirth sometimes, about the impossible gift of a second chance. I'd never figured out how or why it happened, whether it was magic, divine intervention, or something else entirely. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd used it. I'd taken the knowledge of my first life and built something better. I'd stood up to my abusers. I'd walked away from toxicity. I'd created a life filled with love, success, and genuine happiness. And the sneakers? I still had them, preserved in a glass case in my office. Not the silver heels Riley had tried to steal, but the white sneakers I'd worn to prom in both timelines. Once out of desperation, once out of choice. They reminded me of who I'd been and who I'd become. The girl who had nothing and the woman who had everything. The victim who became a victor. Sometimes, young women from my foundation would visit my office and see the sneakers. They'd ask about them, curious about why a famous fashion designer would display gym shoes like they were precious artifacts. I'd tell them the story, a simplified version, leaving out the rebirth and focusing on the choice. About going to prom in sneakers because I refused to let someone else's theft define my night. About choosing comfort and authenticity over other people's expectations. The heels were beautiful, I'd say. But they weren't mine anymore. Someone else had poisoned them with their entitlement and cruelty. So I wore sneakers instead. And you know what? I danced all night. I had the time of my life. And I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away in comfortable shoes. The girls would laugh, but they'd understand. They'd see themselves in that story, the choice between staying in a painful situation because it's what's expected or walking away in whatever shoes you have available. Your worth isn't determined by how high your heels are, I'd tell them. It's determined by where you're willing to walk and who you're willing to walk away from. That became the unofficial motto of my foundation, walk your own path. And I did. Every single day, in whatever shoes I chose, I walked my own path. Away from abuse, away from people who didn't value me, away from a life that would have destroyed me. Toward success, toward love, toward a future I'd built with my own two hands. My sister had worn my prom heels without asking. But after my rebirth, I'd left for prom in sneakers, and I'd run all the way to freedom. That was the real victory, not revenge, though I'd certainly gotten that. Not even success, though I had plenty of that too. The real victory was choosing myself. Every single day, in every single decision, I chose myself. And in the end, that made all the difference.